Lovelies, it's Jen here,
And John.
and it is Thursday night
Yes, it is.
after a short week and one day left this week because of Independence Day, and we thought we'd go ahead and follow up our last Disney Thursday vlog and do this one about tips for taking toddlers and little ones to Disneyland. So, do you have any tips you want to share first, honey, or should I start?
Well, we've just figured out that you shouldn't try and record a video with a phone and a tripod with the baby around, or you're going to be re-recording because he turns it off.
Thank you.
Second phone's useful.
Yes. All right. So, one tip that I have for going to Disneyland with a toddler or a newborn or baby is to go ahead and use the baby stations that Disneyland offers. Not everyone knows that, and Disney World offers them as well. There's at least one in each park, and in these stations they have little kid potties. They're really, really small and really short to the ground. So if your child is potty training, you can run them in and take them potty, and it's really easy for them to take off their pants and get to the bathroom real quick, and they're not scared by the super loud flushing because it doesn't have that. So that is a really good tip. Also, if your kid is tired and won't take a nap in the stroller and crying, they have rocking chairs, so you can go in there. It's not just for nursing moms. You can use the rocking chair and just rock your toddler to sleep, which I think is a really good feature. They also have free baby food in case you forgot your baby food, and bottle warming stations there, and spots to nurse.
And I think diapers too if you have kids still in diapers.
Yeah, and if you forgot diapers or you ran out or you need wipes, all of that is available in the baby changing stations, and that is on Main Street in Disneyland itself. There's one in California Adventure near the pier, and I know they have them in all the parks at Disney World as well. So that is my first tip. Make use of that area because it's quiet, it's air conditioned, and you can take care of whatever needs you might need and might come up, and they have everything you might need there. So it really is a good tip. My second tip for taking toddlers to a park, Disneyland, Disney World, is to know their routine. All right. So is your child an early riser, or is your child a stay up later? If they are not an early riser, you probably do not want to wake them up to open up the park. You probably want to say, okay, I will get there at 10 and do it that way and stay till the park closes. If they are an early riser, on the other hand, you might realize that you may not make it to the last showing of the fireworks or the Fantasmic because they may be cranky and overtired at that point. Case in point, Brighton usually goes to bed, usually 9:30ish, and we went to the 4th of July fireworks. And even though he's not afraid of fireworks typically, he just cried and cried for pretty much the whole show. So, and it was just because he was overtired. He didn't want to be in the stroller. He didn't want to be held. He just wanted to go home to bed. So, I say it's really, really important to know your child and know their schedule. And if you need to do some tweaking with the schedule, maybe allow yourself 2-3 weeks before you go to adjust their schedule earlier or later, depending on what you want to do and what you want to do with them.
But also realize that the schedule is going to be thrown off being at the park. You're going to be running in different hours. You're going to be doing a lot of walking around and being out in the sun. So things are going to get thrown off. In particular, toward the later part of your trip, if you're going for several days, the kids start dragging more and more.
Yeah, they do get tired after even just one day in the park, I think. I mean, I think as an adult, your feet are tired after your first day in Disneyland or Disney World, and then you're going back. Well, little kids too, even though they're in the stroller, they get tired out. Sorry, we're holding this because the Brighton was stealing the tripod, so I'm trying to show both of us together, but I have very short arms, so it doesn't particularly go well. Maybe hubby would like to hold that camera. There we go. Okay, so a third tip I have is, what do you want to do about snacks and the lines for lunch, dinner, breakfast in the park? All right, so this is a tough one. If you're going to be doing a character breakfast, meaning you're going to go to Goofy's Kitchen or the Carnation Plaza or the Princess Fair for breakfast, whatever it may be. If you're doing something like that, then you want to wake your child up early enough and maybe give them a little snack in the stroller on the way in to tide them over while you wait through the lines. If you're not doing a fancy breakfast like that, I suggest you go ahead and just pack with you something easy, unless your hotel offers free breakfast. Pack like little mini boxes of cereal that they like, or if it's a baby or a toddler, you can pack the little Go-Gurt pouches that have like applesauce or baby food in it that they can just suck out of the pouch and toss it. And again, juice boxes, something like that makes it really easy that they can eat on the walk in or the tram ride in or whatever it is, so that they don't get a low sugar and they're not already stressed out before you even get into the line.
And even if your hotel does offer breakfast, a lot of times the hotel breakfasts are not a lot. A little bit of cereal, maybe a couple things of fruit that the kids may or may not like. So having some pet food packed is still a good idea because they may not get enough there or not like anything.
or just not be in the mood to deal with it yet because it's earlier than they're used to getting up. Another tip I have that's along that line is you are allowed to take food into Disneyland for babies. So I use that liberally and I pack Cheerios. Cheerios are foods that little babies will eat. Little being, 4 to 6 months, they gum on them. And it's also something your toddlers will eat. So you can pack Cheerios. I've brought those in thousands of times. I've never had them question me bringing in a bag of Cheerios. The plus here is if the churro line or the popcorn line or the, you name it, cart for fast food snacks is long, because it does get long. Even cotton candy lines can be long in Disneyland. You have something you can give them, or if you keep it in your backpack and you're carrying it with you or your purse, you can actually say, I'm in line for Peter Pan, it's a 35-minute line. Oh my gosh, they're getting hangry. Give them some Cheerios, easygoing, no mess, and you can stay in line, finish it, and then go get your lunch or whatever it is you need. So that's a really big tip that I have. Just Cheerios is really a great choice.
And tied in with that, allow time when you're going to dinner. If you wait until they're starting to get hungry, by the time you get through the line, they're going to be starving and have eaten your stroller and possibly some of the other children.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, let's say you say, let's just finish up Fantasyland. I really want to ride Snow White. I know they really wanted to ride Alice in Wonderland, whatever it happens to be, the teacups, whatever. So you say, we'll just get through this and then we'll go get lunch or dinner or whatever it is. Okay, let's say your line takes 20 minutes, which is not really probably realistic. It's probably more like 30 or 40 minutes. I don't know what that means, but hubby's gesturing to me something. But at any rate, I would suggest highly that you definitely know your kid. If my kids eat lunch at 11:30 right now, that's the schedule they're on. That's a fairly early lunch, but they do get up fairly early. Almost all of them are up between 7 and 8, so that's a reasonable time for lunch. And I need to plan around that. I'm not going to be able to squish in a ride at 11 o'clock and wait in a 35-minute, 40-minute line, ride the ride, and then go get in the lunch line at 11:35, 11:40, because the lunch line is going to take 20, 25 minutes. And even if you send one parent to go wait in the lunch line, the other parent is stuck there with really cranky, screaming children in the restaurant or the seating area, and nothing you're going to do is console them because they just want their lunch, and then they want to take a nap. So I really, really, really think that you want to time your rides, and if you don't finish everything that you wanted to finish, you can go do it after lunch, or if they're napping, whatever, you can catch it later, but really, really stick with their food schedule. Do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay, what about toddler-friendly snacks in the park? What do you think? Like, my tips would be, for me, there are fruit carts in the park throughout, Critter Country, also on Main Street and a couple other areas. So you can, and they're usually not as long of a line as like the junk food, like churros and popcorn. And you can grab a banana, you can grab an apple, you can grab a dill pickle, you can grab oranges, and they usually have like juice boxes there. So that's a fast, quick snack that you can go that's kind of healthy. So I highly recommend that. Alternatively, if your kid is really having a sugar low and you can't find that fruit shack and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give them cotton candy. The popcorn line that's all sticky. They'll make a mess. The popcorn line's too long, whatever. A lot of times you can get to the Dole Whip, station in, Adventureland, right? At the Tiki Room. And they have Dole Whips, which are like pineapple yogurts. They have pineapple on a stick, and they have pineapple juice. So again, that's like a quick healthy snack that you can get them.
And usually with a shorter line.
Yeah, it's usually you don't even have to go into the Tiki Room. You can buy it on either end. So you can go in through the gate, or you can just be on the outside of it. And the line there usually isn't really, 2-3 minutes and you can get a snack. So.
And whatever you want to get for a snack, whether it's healthy fruit or junk food because you're on vacation, pay attention when you're walking around, see where the fruit carts are, or the snack carts, the little service windows in some of the restaurants. That way, when you've got them starting to get hungry, you say, oh, I just saw a fruit cart a couple buildings back. Let me go grab something there, instead of having to start looking for it fresh.
I think that's a good point. And also, you want to know you want to locate on the maps where the bathrooms are. Obviously, we told you about the baby changing stations, but you probably want to at least know where, if you're in Adventureland, where is the closest bathroom. If you're in Critter Country, where is your closest bathroom? Because sometimes they don't have a long time or they have a blowout in their diaper and you just need to go. So that's like really important to map out and know where the bathrooms are when you're in each area of the park. Right? Yeah.
And speaking of bathrooms, if you've got any who are not entirely trained or recently trained, having spare clothes along is a good idea, just in case. Or
personal story. I was going to go ride Peter Pan and we were all in the queue. Like all of us were in the queue with Grandma, Grandpa, everybody. I had Rio at that point who was potty training, And literally, we were 3 boats from getting onto Peter Pan. And he said he had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, okay, we'll go to the bathroom. And he couldn't hold it. And literally, he soaked through all his clothes and all my clothes. Now, I had a diaper bag with some change of clothes, but not like shirt, everything. So I needed to buy him some clothes. And I wanted to do it in a hurry because everybody else was getting on Peter Pan and they were going to wonder where we went. So we went.
I did wonder. I turned around and you had disappeared from the line.
Yeah, and he's like totally wondering where we went. So we went to the Princess Fair and bought Rio, who's a boy, princess like legging pants because hey, you got to do something when they have that big of an accident, and a shirt. But the bad news was that I didn't have a change of clothes and I wasn't going to go all the way back to the hotel to get a change of clothes. So literally I walked around till, let's say that was first thing in the morning. Literally that was like one of the first rides we were going on. So it must have been 8:30. I think at 3:30 or 4, the pants finally were dry enough that they didn't look like they were wet, but they still felt wet and they smelled foul. So if you have somebody here potty training and you think you're going to have them on your lap or be carrying them, it might be good to pack yourself a spare pair of clothes and put it in a locker outside the park. I mean, you don't want to carry it everywhere, or throw it under the stroller maybe, or at least a sweatshirt to tie around your waist, because that was a bummer.
Yeah. I was just happy we eventually found you.
So, yeah, that's my tip. Okay, so we've talked about snacks, we've talked about potty training, we've talked about, what else did we talk about?
Just keeping on schedule.
Keeping on schedule, breakfast. Another tip I have for toddlers is you want to kind of know their fears or know their nervousness or their quirks. So if you think they're going to be afraid of the Haunted Mansion, or you think they're going to be afraid of characters, or you think they're going to be stressed out by fireworks, I'm saying that quietly because Diego's in the room, or you think they might be stressed out by the sound of people screaming on the Matterhorn, whatever it may be, or balloons in the sky, it doesn't even matter. A good thing to do is talk it through them. I put on YouTube a lot before we go so that they get used to what Disneyland sounds like. What Diego choked on his Capri Sun, so momentarily scared there, but I think he's okay. But as I was saying, so they get used to the sights and the sounds and the feel of what it's like. And I find that, like, the more they watch it and the more they hear it, the more they get used to it. Also, you can do books, obviously. You can go on the computer and look to Disneyland site itself. But I find YouTube's a really good way. It's got the sound and the sights, and it's a pretty good, like, you can type in one ride if you want them to see what they think of Haunted Mansion. Well, this is what it looks like. Or Pirates, what do you think of that? And kind of give them a feel for it.
And Jen's favorite are the walkthroughs where they have people walking through the park. You can get them with or without the rides, and just kind of give it a general thing. If you haven't had your kids there before, you can't be sure if they're going to say, oh boy, it's Mickey Mouse, I need to give him a hug, or oh my god, it's Mickey Mouse and he's huge, I need to go hide.
Yeah, there's no way, you're going to know everything, and you're not going to plan for everything. But the important thing is to, as I'm laughing because Brighton is dumping a bowl of I don't know what on his head, literally at the table. What are you doing, Brighton? Hi.
Smiling for the camera.
Say hello. Yeah. So he's at the table doing all sorts of dangerous things like that. So Daddy's going to go get him because he's in the climbing stage. At any rate, so what I was saying is go ahead and try and get them accustomed to it as best you can. If there is a park near you, one like Six Flags, or here we have Great America, something that has characters, that might be a good chance to kind of like see how they get the gist, because you don't want to wait in a long line to go through Mickey's house and Minnie's house if they're not going to want to see the characters. There's no point in having them freak out. You know what I'm saying? So I would, not right now, no bubbles right now. So I think that, getting, if you can do that, that would be good. Or if there's a princess, like, party area near you where you can see people dressed up as princesses and see how they interact with that, I think that's a good idea. So
possibly even your local Chuck E. Cheese or something where there's a character walking around.
Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese would be good too, just to give them, just to get a feel of how they're going to react to to characters, because that sometimes can really freak them out. So it's not just the sounds of the fireworks or the sounds of the whatever. Sometimes just the characters do. So
we've had kids being terrified of their favorite characters when they're suddenly right there in person.
Yeah, so you kind of gotta, plan on that. And then let's see, do you have any other tips you want to talk about tonight? Are you thinking of offhand?
One thing that comes to mind is in some of our earlier trips with kids, we would say, oh, they're getting tired, let's go stroll back to the hotel and take a nap. And what always happens is they fall asleep in the stroller, and then they'd wake up when you get back to the hotel. So
Always. Oh my
we
gosh.
we don't even
We'd
try
walk
that anymore.
all the way back to the hotel, all the way back, like 40 minutes out, get the hand stamp, everything. And as soon as we got into the hotel room and we're like, okay, we'll take off our shoes, we'll take a nap too. No. Then they're like wide awake and running around the room and screaming and just being crazy. And you don't have any toys or whatever. And it's just, they lock themselves in the bathroom. I mean, you name it, it happens. So, no, for us, it was better just to like stroll them around and let the sights and the sounds like eventually put them to sleep. So, that worked for us. That's not going to work for everyone, but for us, that's
Yeah, we've done a lot of walking around with one or more kids napping in the stroller. We just trade off who's going on the rides while somebody else sleeps. That kind of gets into the baby pass you talked about last time.
yeah, the parent swap. If you don't know or you didn't watch my last video, if you have two parents and one sitting with a kid that won't ride something, is scared to ride it, asleep, whatever,
Too young.
you can go through the line with the child that wants to ride it and tell them I'm a parent and I have another parent waiting, and they'll give you a little card, pass, whatever you call it, and you're able to swap. And then when you get off the ride, you give it to your spouse and you stay with the kid that already rode and the kid that was asleep or whatever, and your spouse can go ride the ride without waiting in the long line. So that is a really good tip. So if you weren't aware of that, it's called Parent Swap, and it's on, I think there's every ride you can do it. I don't think there's a single ride that they'll say, no, we won't parent swap. I mean, unless there's like absolutely no line, which rarely happens, but I guess if there was no line, they'd say no. But otherwise, yeah, parent swap is really cool. Final tips for me. I would say I would allow them to get a souvenir on the first day for going back to the hotel. That way they have something to play with if they're too wound up to go to sleep, or they have something to snuggle with to go to sleep. So I tend to allow them to get the souvenir on the first day. I think that's gives you something in the hotel room for them to do, and you don't have to pack toys then. So that's like my personal preference. I don't know. That probably makes that's a good thing.
What that brings to mind for me is if you get balloons and you're coming out of Disneyland driving over the Grapevine going north, the balloons have a very good likelihood of popping in the car. So at this point, we just leave the balloons behind in the hotel. It's kind of a shame, but
it's better than having them pop and explode and scare the kids to death. And the final thing I wanted to bring up is if it is your first trip to Disneyland or Disney World or California Adventure or whatever it is, if you go to the guest relations section, you can get a pin that says my first trip to Disneyland, or they also have honeymoon pins or wedding pins or birthday pins. And if you wear one of those pins, every cast member reacts to it. They are like required to. So they'll be like, oh, hey, so-and-so, it's your first trip, or are you having a good first trip? And it's kind of like really special. I would not do that with the really little ones. Obviously, you don't want to put a pin on a baby. And I guess you could put it in their baby book, but I wouldn't put it on the baby. But for a toddler, like a 4-year-old, they might think it's kind of neat that everyone knows their name and is like talking to them about their first trip. They might like get a kick out of it. So that might be something.
Going back a bit to the schedule we were talking about earlier, since we have a variety of kids, early risers and late risers, we sometimes end up
Thank you. My arms did fall off.
Where we will have one of us go into the park a little before the other with the early risers, and then at the end of the day, one of us head back early. It's nice to both be there together, but sometimes the kids just aren't going to make it, but we have other kids that are still raring to go.
Yeah, like on one of our last trips, we went with the grandparents, and they were tired, so they went back, and we stayed later. And we stayed through the end of, what is the water show in California?
World of Color?
World of Color. So we stayed through that, and then there was still maybe an hour, I don't know, left in California Adventure, and then 2 hours left in Disneyland because it stays open later. And I said, okay, 'cause I was pregnant, I'll take the little ones back that are tired, that's fine. And it ended up, I took them back, and there was like a whole bunch of, not a whole bunch, but there were 2 or 3 like older kids that surprised me that were like, you know what, I'm tired too, I'll go back. So like it worked out well. So John stayed with like, I think he had like 3, and I took the rest back to the hotel because even the older kids can get tired too. So, you know, just because they're older doesn't mean that they aren't going to get tired, especially if they're starting the day early or it's been hot or really cold or just a long day. So I think that that's just something to think about, is splitting up. Sometimes, I mean, try and make it as best you can together, but also be aware if you do split up that Disneyland often becomes impacted, and so they will stop letting you in. Even if you were in and you got a hand stamp, they're not going to let you back in the park if it's overmaxed population. So if you go out, then you may not be able to go and rejoin. Even if you go out for dinner, you might not be able to come back at firework time and rejoin if the park's having a really busy day. And so then you've got a problem because you've got some kids and hopefully an adult with them, and some other kids, an adult out there that can't meet up. So in that case, you definitely want a cell phone probably to communicate. but you definitely want a backup plan in case that happens.
If you are splitting up, make sure you send your Disneyland passes with the right parent for the kids, so you don't, especially coming in the morning, you don't want to say, oh, the wife is in the park with a bunch of kids, and the passes for the rest of us.
Yeah. And I just thought of one more tip, and this will be the last one for me. I have learned over the years to take a picture before we go into the park of the group. And it's not just because I have a big group. I mean, even if it was just me and Diego and Aurora going into the park for the day, I would take a selfie of us so that I have it on my camera and I know what they're wearing. I would not be surprised. It's very easy. There's probably 5 or 6 kids that get lost an evening in Disneyland alone, just because the crowds are so crowded and it's so brushing up against that you can lose a hand real easy. So if you take that picture, you know what they're wearing, so you can let them know, this is what my child looks like, this is what they're wearing, you know, please help me find them. Also for our group, we don't all wear like matchy exact same everything, but I will try and do color codes. So like maybe one day we'll all wear red shirts, or one day we'll all wear gray shirts or white shirts or blue shirts or whatever it is, so that if for some reason I blank that I've taken the picture, and I do take the picture, I don't think I've ever forgotten to take the picture before we go into the park, but in case in the excitement I have forgotten to take the picture because we're sunblocking and
Or the
line's
phone
moving,
dies.
or the phone dies and you can't get to it, or whatever it is, I can at least look at what I'm wearing and say, I'm wearing a white shirt. Oh my God, I know that the child was in a white shirt. So blonde hair, 4 years old, Diego, white shirt. And that's something that they can immediately start looking for the child by.
And we have sometimes gotten the matching outfits. With a group our size, we usually can't get matching for absolutely everybody, but if we can match a few at least, then you have the other option to say, it's Diego, here is the shirt he was wearing that somebody else has on.
Yeah, so, and again, that's a budget thing. Like, this year we're really struggling to save up to afford to go to the park at all. Disneyland's prices have gone up, and we haven't been in 4 years, so it's been a long time.
Or as I think of it, 2 kids.
Or 2 kids, as he thinks of it. So it's been a long time for us. We haven't been in a while, and we really are struggling to, you know, set aside and save up for the trip. So I don't think we're going to get like matchy brand new whatever, but I'm going to at least try and color coordinate so that we know what everybody's color is for that day. I think that's like a good idea.
Yeah, if we can do it out of their existing clothes, it's good. If we have to buy 1 red shirt and 2 green shirts, that's something that we can probably manage.
So that's something we're working on. I think that's it for my tips. Do you have anything else you wanted to add for toddler tips?
I did a second ago. Let's see if I think of it while you're wrapping up here.
Okay, so I hope that made sense. I know it was kind of like a mishmash of things, and if you guys have any questions or comments, please include them below in the comment section. I'll be glad to try and get back to you and answer them as best I can. These are just some toddler tips. If you have some of your own toddler tips, I'd be glad to hear what yours are as well. So by all means, please share them, and I will share them with my subscribers. If you like the channel, go ahead and subscribe to us. We would love for you to join our family and enjoy our videos.
I will just add, be aware of what your kids are up for. Maybe you love one of the roller coasters, but your kids just aren't there yet. That a lot of times maybe they're too small, and that's easy to figure out. You aren't going on it. But when you have the kids that's old enough for something but just isn't going to enjoy it, don't force them. We've had kids, oh boy, the Haunted Mansion, oh, I'm inside the Haunted Mansion, time to leave now, and we've had to walk out.
Yeah, for us, like, we want it to be enjoyable for everybody, so I never would force them to ride a ride, ever. So if they don't want to ride it, that's fine. Somebody will always sit out. I don't have a problem with that at all, and I encourage other people to be understanding that kids are little people too, and, you know, they have feelings and they have emotions, and they should be honored and cherished because that's how they're feeling at the time. So, you know, you've got to be aware, even though it's a vacation, you know, that you've been planning and saving for, sometimes things aren't going to go exactly as you hoped, but the way it is going is the way it's meant to be, and it will still be a magical time, no matter, you know, what you ride or what you skip or what they ride or what they skip, and it's all right. And, gosh, what do we...
And going along that lines, if you are like us and you've been to Disneyland as a couple without kids, you're not going to do as many things when you're there with the kids. It's just not going to happen. So don't say, I'm going to see 20 rides every day. It's not going to happen. It's definitely slower with the kids, so make sure you plan on the ones that you really want to get. It can be good to try and plan on, we're going to go through these lands. We've had a few trips where we tried to say, okay, give this kid a pick, give this kid a pick, and then we go all the way back and forth across the park, and that really takes up the time. So if we say, well, one thing we do now that the kids are old enough is we'll get them to say in advance what they really like, so we try and make sure to definitely hit those, and then judge how our time is going for other things.
I think that's a really good point too. Is like you can check out the rides and see what they're interested in, like on YouTube, like I said, or buy a Disney travel book and look through it and just get a general feel of what you want to ride, what they want to ride. And I just remember what the last, another tip. I'm sorry I said we were done, but this is a really important one. You want to know the height requirements for the rides, because all my boys want to ride the Cars Land, the Radiator Springs Racers, and the height for that is 43 inches.
I'm not sure.
I think it's 43 inches, which means a 3-year-old and sometimes even a 4-year-old is not going to make that height. So, like Diego this year, I don't think he's going to make Radiator Spring Racers, and I would rather be upfront with him and say, yes, Diego, Alton may get to ride it, but you're not going to be able to ride it. I'm sorry. But what would you like to do instead while they're riding it, and have a plan of attack? So while they're riding it, what can I do that would make him happy and be something fun for him? Maybe we'll go to Bugs Land. Maybe we'll ride Mater's Towers a second time. Whatever it is. But it's really, really, really important, especially if you know it's a ride that's important to them, that you check. Because I assumed all the Cars Land rides would be like kid-friendly because it's cars. And the Radiator Springs Racers is, you have to be pretty tall to ride it. So, and I would just double check the height for the rides, because you don't want to have wait in line and get up to the front, and then they measure them and they're like, oh, they're half an inch too short to ride it. We had that with Coda. We took her
Indiana Jones Adventure.
Indiana Jones last time, and she missed it by like a quarter of an inch. And we waited in a fairly long line. We waited in about a 35-minute line, and it was like about 10:30 at night. It was pretty late. We were pretty much almost done for our day and contemplating whether we would go back or not. We got up to the front, and she was too short by a quarter of an inch. Now, they did give her a pass because she waited in the whole line to ride something else. So we walked all the way over to Fantasyland, tired as heck, and I don't remember what
Small World, I think.
She picked Small World, and we went on that with the pass. But that wasn't good. And Radiator Springs Racers with Diego would be really, really, really not good. So I need to be honest with him. I'm going to actually think about it and measure him very soon, see how high he is, and then let him know. I think he already does, but I think I want to go over it again, that this is how tall you are, so you won't be able to ride this time. And I think if you tell them and they know ahead of time, it's way better than getting up and just being disappointed last minute.
If you're going to have a tantrum, have it at home.
Yeah, that's it. Anyways, I guess that's a good point too, really quick, tantrums. I just wanted you to know that it's very loud in Disneyland. So if your child is tantruming in the stroller, like, and you know it's going to be a good 20-minute or whatever tantrum, don't panic, don't freak out. It's so loud, and there are probably 10 or 15 other strollers at the same time in various areas of the same vicinity with children that are tantruming. So you're not the only one. You're not a bad parent. It's a long day, you know, and that will happen. They're overtired and they're falling asleep maybe in a different way than they're used to. So, you know, if that happens, don't stress out, you know, and you'll know what to do. You're the parent, you love your child, and you will know what to do that's best for them. And just relax and have fun. Parents are not going to judge you. Everybody's been through it, and they know how tough it is. So don't put that pressure on yourself that it has to be the perfect experience, and you're not going to have a kid tantrum the whole entire time, because that's just not practical at all. And if you take the pressure off, you'll have a lot more fun too. Right, Brayton? Yeah.
Tied into that, though, we have got kids who, toward the end of the day, will just hit the overtired point, and they just flip into tantrum mode, and they're not going to come back. And recognizing your own kids when they've hit the point of their day is done, it's just not worth trying to push it any further. Or, if, again, splitting up to say somebody's got to take the screaming princess back, or or whatever.
Aurora, in our case.
Yeah. Or maybe something where you say, okay, we're hitting the last ride, one parent will wait out with the tantruming toddler, walk them around, something to try and calm them down, or at least keep them out of the lines while the last ride or two is hit.
And if all else fails, they sell really nice lollipops in Disneyland, and I have yet to see not giving a child a lolly as a failure. I've given a child a lolly while they're melting down before, no kidding, and had them fall asleep like about a minute or two after I've gotten the lolly out of the wrapper, and I'm not even sure they had more than one lick at it, and then they're out. So sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to give them that this late at night, whatever. And it's really funny. They wait for you to unwrap it, you give it to them, they take a lick or two, and then literally they fall asleep. It's like the funniest thing. So don't be afraid to do that either. That's actually worked pretty well a couple times. But we are running really late. This is a 20-minute video for tips and tricks for
and
toddlers.
That's after Brighton or Diego minutes restart.
Yeah, so I think we're going to cut it here. I hope that those tips help. Again, if you have other tips, please put them below. If you have any questions for us, please put it below. We'll be glad to try and get back to you. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Bye, lovelies.
Bye.